Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Okay, in accordance with the state sunshine law, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending a notice of the time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting on January 5, 2024 and January 3, 2025. To the Home News Tribune, the Times, posted on the district website, placed in the board office and in each of the district schools, and sent to the Plainsboro and West Windsor-Plainsboro, West Windsor Public Libraries, and Plainsboro and West Windsor Township Clerks. This is the reorganization meeting of the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District for the period of January 2025 through January 2026. In accordance with the state sunshine law, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending a notice to the time, date, and location, and to the extent known, the agenda of the meeting to the Home News, again, the Times, West Windsor-Plainsboro Public Libraries. A copy of this notice has also been posted or have been posted in the board office, filed with the Plainsboro's and West Windsor's Township Clerks, placed in each of the schools and posted on the district's website. Okay, the results of November's election. West Windsor, Elizabeth George Chenier received a total of 10,513 votes. Congratulations. Okay. Okay, we have Pooja in Plainsboro. We have Pooja Bansal, who received 4,466 votes. And in Plainsboro, we have Ajanta Shah, received a total of 4,401 votes. Congratulations. Okay, at this time, we'll do the oath of office, and what'll happen is you'll raise your right hand and you'll state the oath, and I'll start on my left side with Ms. Chenier.
Okay. I, Elizabeth George Chenier, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Elizabeth George Chenier, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of Member of a Board of Education, and I'm not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19:4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJSA 18:A-12-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. And next, we'll go to Ms. Bansal.
I, Pooja Bansal, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Pooja Bansal, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of Member of a Board of Education, and that I'm not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS Section 19:4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJSA Section 18A-12-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Okay, congratulations. All right, Ms. Shah, your chance.
I, Ajanta Shah, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the government established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Ajanta Shah, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of Member of a School Board of Education, and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19:4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJSA 18A-12-A, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Okay, congratulations. Okay, at this time, I guess we'd like some photo ops, if you would like. It's your chance. Family members. If you want to stand in front of the flag. or in front of the board, or? I should put this in here because I don't need to pass this out just yet. Front of the board table. Yes, board table's fine, yeah, I'll get out of the picture. Yep.
Good improv.
Okay. This time we'll do a roll call. Let's start with Ms. Bonsall. Roll call, just a yes.
Yes.
Here. Okay, Ms. Cheniera,
Yes.
here. Ms. Ho,
Yes.
Ms. Krug,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Maliga,
Yes.
Ms. Shah, Ms. Shetty,
Yes.
Ms. Zovich. Okay, we are a board. Not board, but a board. All right, at this time, we're going to have nominations for president. I'm going to open the floor. You guys can nominate. And then, when the nominations stop, we'll close the floor, and then I'll ask for a vote. So at this time, I'm opening the floor for nominations for president of the board.
I'd like to nominate Graylin McEwen for president. She's been president this past year and done a wonderful job guiding the board with her patience, her kindness, and all that she does for us. So I would like to nominate Graylin continue being the president for this upcoming year.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the floor. So this time, a yes or a yay will mean a vote for Ms. McEwen. We'll start with Ms. Bonsall. Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Okay, next, Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shah.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
And last is Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Okay, congratulations. No, no yays. The next order of business will be the voting for the vice president. The floor will be open, the nomination made.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year, everybody, and congratulations to our members that were sworn in today. Next, I'd like to get a nomination for VP.
I nominate Pooja Bansal for Vice President.
Great, thank you. Any other nominations for VP? Okay, I can close that now, and ask for a roll call vote.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shah.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations.
So, as part of our reorganization, and congratulations, Pooja, as they switch over off into the background here. As part of our reorganization, there are several items we need to vote on to continue the regular business of the school district. Can I get a motion for items numbers 7 through 34? Liz and Louisa. Are there any questions or comments? Okay.
But we'll start with Ms. Cheniera. Yes. Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shah.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall. Yes. Ms. McEwen.
Yes. Thank you. And that closes the reorganization portion of our agenda. And now we can move on to our regular business items. Dr. Adderall, do you have any? All right.
Good evening, everybody. And first, congratulations to the newly sworn in members of our board. Congratulations to our president and vice president. Wanted to welcome everyone back to the start of 2025. But I did want to start with a moment of pause and just some recognition, as many in our community know that we did suffer a tragedy in our community with the loss of a student at High School South on New Year's Day. I want to thank the staff and students and the members of the community for all the support and heartfelt condolences to the Ansari family over the past week. This past Monday at High School South, we did have a crisis team response. And I want to thank the administration, members of the counseling staff, as well as members of our extended community that came in support of our students. Had the opportunity to speak with Shahir's family last week, and they were very clear in wanting to remember Shahir as a excellent student, a student that they were incredibly proud of, as a proud contributor and volunteered to our school community and to our greater community and to his faith community. They were proud of him as a son and as a brother and as a family member. He was an active contributor in our cricket team and our Muslim Student Association, and they wanted him to be remembered for his contributions in various ways and for his commitment to community and to others. We thank the Ansari family for their willingness to let us share a little bit about their son. And I thank the South community for all that they've done in support of the family. With that, there was some questions about timing of messaging and whatnot. And I just wanted to share that with every tragedy and every loss, we take the lead as a school district from the family. So our timing is sometimes impacted by the timing of what the family needs. In that particular circumstances, the school community will never be the one that necessarily breaks the news, but we're never going to be the one that breaks the news to a family member. So we will always, take guidance from the family on timing, and that's what we did on this particular situation. Based on the family's faith and cultural beliefs, there were services that happened quickly in accordance with their beliefs, and we honor that, and we ask the community to honor that. So again, unfortunately, as a community, we have experienced tremendous loss over the last several years. In every circumstance, we follow the guidance of the family, and when necessary, the guidance from law enforcement, and depending on investigation. So I'll just say that every circumstance is different, and we will always defer and work with other agencies and families in those circumstances. To that end, I also wanted to just sort of pause and recognize another member of our greater community, Mayor Cantu. This past Thursday, Plainsboro Township had their own reorganization meeting. Had the opportunity to attend as the community came out in tremendous support of Mayor Cantu and the recognition of his 50 years of community service. It's his 50th year on Township Committee, 44 as mayor, and he did step back from the role and responsibility of mayor to allow for a transition in the Plainsboro Committee. But he is staying on, and he will be a very active contributing member of that committee over the next 2 years of his term. But it was a tremendous reminder of the importance of community service and the contributions that a group of individuals can make. Because the mayor is very clear that the power really came from the power of the committee, and there's 3 members with over almost 30 years experience, including Mr. Lewis, who's in the audience. At that particular meeting, the governor came in recognition of the mayor and had some very kind words, but Rush Holtz and Linda Greenstein and Senator Zwicker and others, every mayor from the local area. So it really was a very heartfelt welcome recognition of Mayor Cantu's service. And his family, of course, was in attendance. Also want to recognize that the reorganization that Ed Yates was elected mayor in Plainsboro, and those of us that worked with Ed, I believe it's 28 years on the committee, right? And he's one of the junior members. And David Bander will be the deputy mayor. I also wanted to welcome our new board members, and Ajanta, welcome to the board. And I did want to also just pause in remembrance that this is Board Member Appreciation Month. And while there's a resolution on the agenda this evening, we just want to extend our thanks and gratitude to the members of the board. This is a community service role run by volunteers who give graciously of their time away from their family on Tuesday nights in particular, but other nights throughout the year. And there's tremendous amount of conversation and collaboration as they serve as the representatives to our greater school community in helping guide the administration with respect to decisions on behalf of our students and the impacts that those decisions make to our greater community. So again, my thanks and appreciation to the board. And with that, I'll close my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. And we appreciate the school district, so this is great. And now I'm actually going to turn it over to our student representatives. We have Rachel Joseph and Anna Chen from High School South and Johnson Lin from High School North. So looking forward to hearing from you and getting your report.
All right. Hello. We hope you all had a great break and a happy new year. Anna and I are so happy to be back. Obviously, over the past month, we've had a long break from school, but our sports programs have been active and getting at it these past couple weeks. Both High School South and North hosted their Winter Classic holiday tournament for the girls and boys team. South's wrestling also attended and placed well at a couple invitationals. But we would like to especially highlight our South boys and girls swim team, who hosted their Pirate Invitational once again, making this the 43rd year that they have hosted this meet. Both teams did extremely well, with our girls team placing second and our boys team placing first. And the boys 200 medley relay broke a 16-year-old meet record. So we're glad to see all the success of our programs and look forward to seeing more as the winter season continues. Jumping back to before break, our music department, specifically our orchestra and band, have held multiple winter concerts celebrating the holiday season. And now I'll pass it off to Anna for clubs and activities.
Thank you, Rachel. Before winter break started, Student Council held their annual Winter Spirit Week and Pep Rally. The students were split into 2 gyms, and the underclassmen competed against each other in the auxiliary gym, and the upperclassmen competed in the new gym. Our pep band and specialized dance teams put on performances, while our winter sports teams ran out in front of their peers. South also ran a successful holiday drive spearheaded by one of our lovely teachers, Miss Hayden, for the PEI kids. South has many exciting events to look forward to in 2025. This Friday, the North versus South basketball games will be hosted between the two schools, with varsity teams competing at North. There will also be many upcoming senior nights for winter sports teams where they will honor their senior athletes, with both our wrestling and boys basketball programs celebrating theirs next week. Student Council expects to hold their second annual Winter Wonderland event for elementary students later this month, and students part of the AVID program also look to host Family Day. And tomorrow night, juniors will continue their college application journey in the in-person junior college planning event hosted by South. Now I'll turn it over to North.
Thank you. Yeah. And students had the opportunity to go to compete against their other classes and also grades. And also our music department and our choir held their Crystal Knock, which was a really intimate show where they didn't use any mics and it was just held in the choir room. During break, many of our seniors wrapped up their regular decisions applications for colleges, and we are wishing them all luck in the next couple months. And our winter sports are now fully in swing, with many of our teams experiencing unprecedented success. Our boys basketball team has started 8-0 for the first time in North history, and we have dominated our opponents by an average of 14 points per game. And kind of to highlight the season, one of our games was won by a game-winning shot by senior Malachi Jeffers Vieira against Somerville in the final seconds of the game. And their next game is against Princeton Day School tomorrow at High School North, 5:30 p.m., which a lot of students are looking forward to. The North swim team has also experienced similar success, and they are 3-1, and they have a meet against Hopewell later today, so we're wishing them luck at their meet. And the North fencing team has also had a strong start with a record of 2-2, winning their last two games against Homedale and Somerville. They're looking to continue their win streak this Saturday against Central High School. High School's North Student Council will also be hosting Harlem Wizards for the very first time since COVID, and it's open to all grades across WWP. Families can buy tickets to watch our district's teachers take on the Harlem Wizards. Anywhere from elementary school teachers to high school teachers will all be participating in a basketball game on January 17th. And that's all we have for our school. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for the report. I know you guys had a really long break, but it sounds like you guys didn't lose your rhythm because you were just as busy as ever. So thank you so much for coming out this evening, and we look forward to having you again for your next report. So have a good night, guys. Now, that takes us to our first opportunity for public comments. The board, oh gosh, apologies, I missed a really big, really big introduction and presentation.
We might want to cue the kids to leave.
So now that the kids are leaving, I would like to turn the floor over to Mr. Jeff Gachese, our board attorney, for our annual ethics presentation and training.
And if I could share, as soon as the presentation's done, I'm going to pass this form around. If you could sign it stating that you witnessed the presentation.
Perfect.
Thanks, and then return it.
Thank you.
All right. So first of all, congratulations to all the re-elected and newly elected board members. I know you guys have been through this before. Mrs. Shaw, this is your first time. Lucky you. I know what you guys are all thinking. Is this real life or is this just fantasy? This is real. You get to do it again. Lucky you guys. So just for a reminder, this presentation does not replace the individual ethics training required for all newly elected and appointed board members. That's our little caveat. So are you ready? You ready for this? All right. It's guaranteed to blow your mind. All right. this slide actually, to me, is probably the most important of all the slides. And I highlight the area that I find to be the most important. This is your role as board members, right? You are a public body. So what you do matters as a public body, as members of the board. What I like to point out is you want to avoid conduct which is a violation of the public trust, which would create a justifiable impression amongst the public that such trust is being violated. Those words, justifiable impression, are critical. It's not just a violation of the act, so an actual violation, it's creating an impression, a justifiable impression that can violate the act. So the major tenets of your role as board members are you are the governing body of the school district. You're in charge with high-level policy-making decisions. You're only the entity can take an action, not individual board members. And we're going to discuss all this in detail. Your decision-making authority is limited. You don't administer the schools. That's the job of administration. And you obviously mustn't engage in conflicts of interest. And this is all governed by the Code of Ethics, NJSA 18A 12-24.1. So the first one, and as I've said this before, I'm sure in prior presentations, I don't like to generally read at you, but this is the actual law that you are supposed to be following, so I'm going to read this to you. A is, I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures. So follow the rules. And for those of you who don't remember, I'm going to show you a couple cases for each of these. If it starts with a C, that's a case. If it starts with an A, that's an advisory opinion. And if you have any questions throughout any of this, feel free to ask. But just as an example, C-5814, a board member violated the code by trying to issue a rice notice to a district employee without following the proper legal procedures, seeking board authority or consulting with the board. I mean, quite honestly, the only person the board can rice is going to be the superintendent. It's the superintendent's obligation to rice anyone else. C-1104, the board president violated the code when they contacted a newly hired employee and told them that their appointment was void because he directed the superintendent to remove the individual's name from the agenda, but the superintendent failed to do so. I mean, that board member, I'm sure, was thinking, you know, at this point, if an ethics complaint's filed, he's thinking, save me. But board member was ultimately removed. B, this is something you should always keep in mind throughout your, whenever you're acting as a board member, kids come first, right? That's why you're all here. That's why administration's here. I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing. I would also tell you there's a few of those missing. If you look at the LED, there's some protected categories that don't make it in there that probably should. But the crux of it is you give it all you got. You do what's best for kids. And just another case example, board member violated the code when she refused to leave executive session while board discussed a matter involving a family member. The SEC penalty was initially a censure but reduced to reprimand because board counsel said it was okay, but just, you should always rely on counsel, but in this case, maybe not. All right. C-2823. While discussing a matter of an employee's actions and possible discipline in executive session, a board member had the BA distribute copies of a letter that the employee wrote to the board, but instructed the BA not to give a copy to the superintendent. In addition, the member stated she had been in contact with the employee, had picked up the letter from the employee's home, noted she was representing the employee because they are friends. And look, this is pretty standard stuff. You can't give advantages to folks. I mean, you can't just say, hey, you know, you're my best friend. You know, I'm going to help you out. You don't get to do that. You're not their representatives. You're administering the school district. So you got to keep that in mind. C, look at the big picture. I will confine my board action to policymaking, planning, and appraisal, and I would help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them. Which is the major one. You are policymakers, right? That's your main role, is you have a policy committee. You are running the district through the policies. So C1614, very quickly, a board member conducted a visit to assess a candidate for assistant superintendent without board authority. You really shouldn't ever be involved in, while the SEC may give a little leeway, our advice is always, you don't get involved in any evaluation, any interviews, any exit interviews of staff other than a superintendent. That's it. A10 is just for those of you, for the new folks here, is the advisory, is an example of an advisory opinion. Board member violated the code by volunteering for a school club where a member had contact with and control of student personnel, resources, and administration, as well as received orders from district personnel and administration. We'll talk about volunteering a little more because that's a whole another area that does create issues. I know it's questions we've had in the past. But in that situation, the board member failed to confine their actions to policymaking, planning, and appraisal. D, no micromanaging. Not this board, but there are some boards with board members who may say, I don't care, I want it all. And they want to oversee and be involved in day-to-day activities, and it happens. But here you say, you have to remember, I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well run. An evidence of violation would be a board member gives a direct order to school personnel or becomes directly involved in activities or functions that are the responsibility of school personnel or the day-to-day administration of the school district or charter school. So it can be easy to blur the line, right? You guys get to hear a lot of information. You get to know a lot of information. That line can get blurred sometimes. You can get, there's a landslide of information that you may get. So you can easily cross over from from policy making, oversight to day to day. If you have questions about that, always ask us. But just keep that in mind. You don't want to cross over into day-to-day operations. All right, C1124. Prior to being appointed to the board, a member was appointed to be a volunteer coach for a high school football team. Despite being appointed to the BOE, the member continued as a volunteer coach. The SEC found that simultaneously serving on the board and being a volunteer coach in the district violated the act. So, think about it this way. It's basketball season, right? You may be an assistant basketball coach volunteering. When you just feel alive when you coach. You're volunteering, you get elected to the board, and you're having a great season. You want to continue. You want to hear "We're the Champions" playing when you're done. But you have to say to yourself, what do I want to do? Do I want to be a coach, or do I want to be a board member? I can't be both. So you have to understand, because as a board member, when you are acting as a volunteer coach, they're still going to view you as a board member, right? So you have to know that there's that line. Things do change when you become a board member. A1510, board member violated the act by participating in an exit interview or merely observing an exit interview, as it would breach the board member's obligation to refrain from becoming directly involved in activities that are responsibility of school personnel. I'm going to equate to micromanaging. Like we said before, you don't want to get involved in any personnel matters other than what's brought to you by the superintendent that you need to vote on as a board as a whole. C6406, the board member violated the code when he unilaterally visited the school and took pictures of open windows in the middle school and items in the board office bathroom, which he then spoke to reporters about. I don't know why a board member would do that. I don't know what they're thinking. Tonight I'm going to have myself a real good time and go take pictures in the board office. But people do it. And that's when action is taken by the School Ethics Commission. All right. E, I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education, will make no personal promises, nor take any private action that may compromise the board. And that seems self-explanatory, but I'll talk about it a little later, and we've talked about it before. The Ethics Commission and the Office of Administrative Law have used that language, may compromise the board, in two different ways. So it's not particularly clear. We'll talk about that a little later, but while this seems like it's an easy one, don't make any personal promises or take any private action. It's not as clear as you would think, especially when you're involved in social media. So C-1614, board member violated the code when they made a personal promise to a candidate for assistant superintendent by advancing the possibility of his employment with the district and promising to resolve a contract issue for the district, which had the potential to compromise the board. I mean, this is individual. This is board action they're taking as an individual. You can't do that. Remember, you function as a whole. There we go. F, I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interests or partisan political groups or to use this school for personal gain or for the gain of friends. Evidence of a violation. Board member takes action on behalf of or at the request of a special interest group or persons organized and voluntarily united in opinion and who adhere to a particular political party or cause or use the school in order to acquire some benefit, financial or otherwise, for their member or a member of their immediate family or a friend. I mean, you may say to yourself, "Oh, you're my best friend," and I'm gonna get you a job. But you guys can't do that. That's not your role here as board members. The board functions as a whole. You take your lead from your superintendent. C-3614, board member may endorse candidates up for election to the board if the endorsement is made as a private citizen and not as a board member or on behalf of the board. If you guys recall, I've talked about this in the past, you need a disclaimer. I'm speaking as an individual, not on behalf of the board. These are my own personal opinions, that type of thing. I mean, if you go and endorse someone and don't say that, or you endorse them as a board member, and it happens, it's like, hey, look, I'm a board member, and I think this person should be on the board. I mean, you're gonna have mud on your face. You will. It'll be a big disgrace. F, no personal gain. A-2914. Board member who owned, operated a business could not continue in connection with educational foundation to offer fundraiser charging students and splitting profits between the business and foundation, as it could be perceived as using a position for personal gain. This is to protect you guys. I mean, this is one of those situations where if you look at this advisory opinion, you're like, you know what, this may benefit the kids, and it may. But it can certainly be used against you as board members saying, hey, look, you're profiting off of this. And even if it benefits both sides. So, just keep that in mind, that you can't, you can't do that. A-1314, board member may continue as a freelance journalist, however, must not report on board issues and must ensure that no information that was discussed solely in executive session is disclosed. C-4407, board member violated the code by publicly posting confidential information that a staff member was removed from the school and hospitalized for a medical condition. You get confidence. So you'll see some of these hit different areas of the code or of the statute. So, I mean, there's confidential information you guys are going to get as board members, and you have to keep that confidential. So you got to think like this. These things may violate multiple parts of the code, not just that particular one. A-2414. Conflicted board members may not participate in the board's search for a new superintendent as confidential matters pertaining to search criteria might be disclosed by the board. So, excuse me, I apologize. With some of this stuff, you may feel like, and I'll use an example. When you're getting certain information, you may have that confidential information. A good example is like if there's a public issue, right? You have an issue that the public knows about. They're getting all the information wrong. You know what's right, and you could feel your mercury rising, like your internal mercury rising. And are you going to let it all hang out? No, you're not. You're going to have to keep that confidential. The public's wrong. They don't know what's happening, but you have to keep that stuff confidential. AO 206, board member would not violate the code by sending a letter to the editor expressing his opinion about the budget or making a statement to the press, so long as in the letter or statement you do not hold yourself out as a board member and information is accurate and not confidential. Again, use the disclaimer. That disclaimer is critical. This is hard to read here, sorry. I can keep a secret. Gee, I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools, which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information, and in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its schools. So I use the example like you're going to get confidential information. You may be doing a superintendent search. Obviously, the community, thank you, the community is going to be interested in that. So you may be, sitting around, picture, you're sitting around the holidays with family over, maybe having a cocktail, not that I'm encouraging it, sitting by that red firelight, and they ask you about the superintendent search. You have that information. You know about it. You can't disclose it. You can't. That's an ethics violation right there. Oops, sorry, I think I jumped. And lost my spot, sorry. There we go, sorry. C-17-18 board member was censured for responding to and having a social media message reposted over an alleged student discipline incident of a high school student. The message identified the student's school, grade level, gender, and specific details about the incident and length of suspension imposed. It doesn't matter if the information's out there in the public. If you're getting it confidentially in executive session, can't discuss it. C-09-19, board member was reprimanded for inadvertently copying a community member on an email that was intended to go to all BOE members and the CSA, wherein discussions that were held in executive session over a staff member's parent's complaint over a security issue was revealed. So this is one of those, be careful of reply alls, right? This was not intentional, didn't mean to do it, intent does not matter. You still did it. You still disclosed. So you hit that reply all. There was, I don't recall what the actual reprimand, if it was reprimand censure, I presume it was a reprimand, but it's still a violation of the code. H, listen to your superintendent's recommendation. I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the chief administrative officer. Evidence of a violation, board member acts on personnel matter without a recommendation to the superintendent. So that said, like, that would be like, we're going to hire a principal, right? We're going to hire a principal without the superintendent recommending it. We're going to hire a teacher with the superintendent recommending it. Can't do that. Now, if the superintendent recommends it, can you vote no? You can. We don't, but you have to have a reasonable basis for it. You can't just vote no. There has to be some reason, reasonable reason for it. I don't love this one, but this advisory opinion. Board member may participate in an interview committee for a candidate for a high-level administrative or supervisory position. I'm going to advise you, no, don't do that. There's nothing good that comes out of that. As soon as you ask a question, as soon as you open your mouth, it's going to be used against you. Stay away from it. C-3502, board member, if the commission did file, this is why things are not always that clear, sometimes inconsistent. Board members violated the code or did not violate the code when they voted not to reappoint an employee to a former position with the district despite the contrary recommendation of the principal and superintendent. So that's an example of you can vote no on these things, but you can also get in trouble for voting no. So it's a fine line. Not everybody will get that, Bartles and James, but I appreciate it. So thank you for your support. So this is I will support and protect school personnel in the proper performance of their duties. C-4907, board member violated the code by sending a letter to the superintendent, copying the State Board of Education and Executive County Superintendent, accusing the superintendent of allowing employees to violate board policy. So this is an interesting one to me. The issue isn't sending a letter to the superintendent or telling the superintendent that an employee is violating board policy. You should do that. The issue is copying the State Board of Education and the county. This is internal. You have internal information. It needs to be handled, because you could be wrong, quite honestly. It needs to be investigated. That's your job, to refer to the superintendent, not to refer to the county, not to refer to the state. It's very specific, and we will touch upon that. But that is where the issue came about. C-5305, the board member violated the code by sending an email to the superintendent that was also sent to the BA and all other board members, asking the superintendent to provide an accounting of her personal leave. That is not supporting the superintendent, and it's also an individual action, not a board action. So keep that in mind as well. C-2511, always shake my head on this one. Board member violated the code by posting a picture of the superintendent on Facebook with a comment, "Now, if we can only do something about our local terrorists that destroy dreams and burn futures." Mamma mia. Yeah. J, I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and will act on the complaints at public meetings only after a failure of an administrative solution. Evidence of a violation, board member acts on or tries to resolve a complaint or conducts an investigation or inquiry before referring the complaint to the superintendent, other than at a public meeting or prior failure of an administrative solution. Imagine it, like you say, I want to ride my bicycle, come down to the school and do my own investigation. That's not your role. You're not the investigators. That's what the administration does. That's where not only you're not using proper channels, you're getting involved in day-to-day operations. C-2505, board member violated the code by going to the principal directly in connection with a parent complaint rather than referring the complaint to the superintendent. As board members, you guys will hear things from the community, from staff, from students. You'll hear complaints. You don't go to the principal, you don't go to the teacher, you go directly to the superintendent. That's it. That's your job, is to go to the superintendent. You have a different role than a parent. Now, if there's an issue when you are the parent of a child, well then you follow the chain of command. That's a different role. That's why you're wearing separate hats, and you got to keep that in mind that you are wearing separate hats. If you have questions about how you're supposed to handle it, ask. Ask the questions before you act. We'd rather be proactive than reactive. C-2407, board member violated the code by not providing the superintendent with letters because he didn't like the superintendent's management. The board member went to the administrators to address the issues. It's a clear violation. You're not following proper channels. You're administering the school district. I will tell you to take a look at this one yourself, but this is your conflicts. And this will, the purpose of this one is for negotiations, when we're negotiating with the labor organizations, whether you can or should be involved and in what level of involvement you may have. Also, if you have a relative, depending on the definition of relative, that works in this school district what you can and cannot vote on. Typically, the chain of command of supervision for that individual. But this is why we usually pass out a questionnaire at the beginning of the year. So if you haven't gotten it, I'm sure you will. And we determine what conflicts you have. I think most of you are pretty good, but to the extent you're not, we'll discuss it. What I always tell you is just ask us. Ask us if you have a question or concern, whether you should be voting on a particular item. And again, this only applies to negotiations. Basically, and when it comes to negotiations, we're going to tell you if you do have a family member in the school district, it's pretty straightforward. You're not really going to be involved. If you have a relative outside of the school district, in another school district, well, then we have some questions to ask. Then we need to know what's their job, what's their job title, what's their role in the association, what's their role in negotiations, what's their role in the grievance procedure, that type of thing. And it's very fact sensitive, so we'll go through that, get that information, and then we'll tell you, hey, look, you can be involved or you can't be involved. I actually had to ask Mark what this meant. I apologize, because I'll give him credit. This was his slide. This was his issue. So that is from Taken. I didn't know that. I had to ask. Did you know that? Oh, well, I didn't get that. But he explained it to me, then I remembered. So this is about your training, right? And this has happened, so we're intimately familiar with this. The SEC amended its administrative regulations to provide for mandatory penalties for those who do not complete their training requirements in a timely manner. So you can't say, nothing really matters to me. So if you don't complete your training requirements by 12/31, you'll get a letter from the SEC advising of a date that training must be completed, or an order to show cause will be issued. OTCS is order to show cause. If the training is not completed until after the OTCS is issued, but before the SEC issues a decision, you'll receive a censure. If training is not until after the SEC issues a decision, but before the commissioner issues a final decision, you'll receive a suspension of 30 days if you provide written notice to the NJSBA or an SEC of completion, or 60 days if you do not provide written notice. If training is not completed by the time commissioner issues a decision, it's easy come, easy go. You'll be removed. Staffing companies. This is advisory opinion, advised that the employment of a board member's sister by a substitute staffing company that had a contract with the board for substitutes would not conflict the board member for negotiations or participation in all issues concerning the district's superintendent, building principal, or budget. That's because it's a third party. It's a staffing agency. That's the distinction there. If you use in-district subs, then it may be a different story. Advisory opinion A3014, a board member's spouse is employed as a substitute teacher. This is the difference. The board member may not participate in any personnel matters of those in the chain of command of the board member's spouse. That's the distinction there. Substitute is employed by the district, substitute staffing agency. But that's why you always ask when there's ever any contact you may have with the district. All right, beware of social media. This is the biggest issue we see is social media issues. It causes more problems, and I get it's, an age of social media, and you want to be on social media, but you're board members now, and you have to be cognizant of the fact that whether you mean it or not, people are going to say, oh, that person's a board member. They're on our Board of Education. They're going to view you as that. And that's where that whole justifiable impression thing comes in, right? If you're giving the justifiable impression. So if you're talking about a school district issue on social media, you may be talking as a private citizen, and this is where there's a conflict between the First Amendment rights, your First Amendment rights, and your rights as a board member. And it's a little tricky, and I'm going to tell you, the Ethics Commission hasn't been particularly consistent with it. Just err on the side of, one, either having a disclaimer in there, or two, which I prefer, don't be on social media talking about anything related to the school district. C-1718, board member was censured for responding to and having a social media message reposted of an alleged student discipline incident. So we talked about that before. That's it was just reposting. That's all it was. C-1915 and C-2015, SEC found 2 board members violated the act when they posted on Facebook that a substitute teacher, who's also running for election for the board, was unemployed and engaged in misconduct as a substitute teacher. Notwithstanding the fact that the statements were not true and actually applied to another teacher, the commission found that it violated both I and G and issued a reprimand. So it doesn't take much. So C-5619 and 5719, and I'm going to note, as you can see below, a similar case. The board member, in this one, the SEC found that board member violated the act when they made offensive posts on their personal Facebook page that were anti-Muslim. The SEC found, although they were personal, the posts on a personal Facebook page and were not made in the capacity of a board member, and the content of the posts were personal opinions, the BOE member violated the act as it was private action that may compromise the board. They use that may compromise the board language and undermine the public trust. The member was only censured because he had not run for re-election, therefore removal was not an option. Now, C-1121, the SEC found that allegedly racist remarks on a personal Facebook page did not violate the act. Now, the person said their I guess Facebook was hacked, but SEC said even if it wasn't hacked, they weren't acting in a capacity as a board member. The post did not constitute personal promises or specific actions attributable to the board, and the complaint was dismissed. I can't square that. So that's why I tell you, it's not particularly consistent. Avoid it. Chris told you earlier, we have these acknowledgments of receipt. Make sure that you sign them and return them. And congratulations, you made it through. Another ethics presentation. Another one bites the dust. But we will not let you go yet. Do we have any questions?
Anybody? Any takers?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kachese. Oh, wait, we do have a question. Hold on.
Yeah, I know you were going to talk a little bit about volunteering, because I know a lot of us
I'm
are
sorry. Yeah, so,
involved in a lot
and
of
I-
organizations and clubs and
I
whatnot.
apologize. Yes. So, and we always tell you guys, hey, look, if you have questions about volunteering, come to us. Come and ask us, because that's one of those things where you have to be cognizant of what your role is. The SEC, the DOE, they want volunteers. They want folks to volunteer. Everybody wants you to volunteer. But you have to understand your role. You can't direct staff. No matter what, you may be volunteering and you're doing it. I mean, obviously you're doing it, you're volunteering. You're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, right? But people still view you as board members. Any way you slice it, they're going to look at you as board members when you're doing it for a school district function, right? Or in any way involved in the school district. Maybe it's a homecoming thing or something like that, right? You have to be careful of directing staff, directing students, things of that nature. So it is a very fact-sensitive issue, which is why we always tell everybody, hey, tell us what you're volunteering for, and we'll do an analysis of it and let you know how to handle it, whether you can volunteer, whether you can't volunteer, and if you do volunteer, what to watch out for and how to conduct yourself.
I mean, I guess, yeah, thank you, because I think every year we
Yeah.
have these similar type of questions, volunteering.
Yeah.
And in terms of like a lot of us are involved in PTA and school things. So, and I do reach
do
out
both.
and talk to you guys. Yes,
Yeah.
I know you can do both.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I hear this presentation, I'm just kind of like, is it?
Yeah, it's because it's not always that clear. And the other thing we can do, and you saw that, there's advisory opinions, right? So if we don't know the answer, we'll send a letter to the SEC and ask for an advisory opinion. We'll give them the facts, and that will cover you. It should cover you. But as you can see, they're not always consistent, so I'd rather err on the side of asking them if we don't know the answer. But yeah, it's, and I hate to have this presentation and scare you guys, but a little bit we want to. But yeah, it's the easiest thing to do is just to ask and get an opinion. because it is fact sensitive.
And if you're volunteering in outside organizations, not like within school,
Well, it's more school connected, like, so it's more like, hey, are teachers involved, are students involved? If you're look, if you're a volunteer coach in a community league, that's different, right? It really isn't connected to the school district, so that's not an issue. Okay. All right.
All right,
Well, we have one more.
yes.
What about roles that may involve finances? Like in these volunteer type of positions that might be, like you're
Like a
part of it?
treasurer?
Right.
Like a treasurer. Well, that's always a little touchy when it comes to money, obviously. So, like a PTA treasurer, for example, I think that's kind of where you're going with it. It's probably easier to be president than treasurer, to be very honest with you, because you are involved with money as a board member. So it's that justifiable impression thing. It could be perfectly fine, but then it may not. That's one of those I want to do a little research on and get you an opinion if that was an issue. But always a little careful with handling finances when it's in any way touches or concerns the school district. Okay?
Good questions. Thank you so much. I love having the real-life examples, and we
Oh,
do
yeah.
have one more question.
Okay, so outside organizations. So let's say that a board member is doing college interviews on, for their alma mater of students who might be in district. Well, how would you feel about that?
College interviews of students that are in district, currently in district. That would be something I'd be a little more, because you have some more control over students, and so it is outside, but you're also dealing directly with students, so it's a little concerning. But it's also like, hey, you may be an employer, right? Students looking to work somewhere. You just have to be careful because it can look like there's personal promises or you're giving gains to friends as a board member. So that's where that line is. I would be a little careful with that.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Kachese? All righty. Well, thank you so much for your presentation and our annual ethics training. Okay, now we can move on to the first opportunity for public comments. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes. Do we have any comments? Feel free to come up to the podium if you do. We do also have a second opportunity later. Seeing none, okay, I will close this first public comment period. And since we don't have any Board of Education committee reports, since we're starting a fresh year, we can move on to the voting portion of our meeting. So can I have a motion to approve administration items numbers 1 through 4? Dana and Liz, any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Chiniera,
Yes.
Ms. Ho,
Yes.
Ms. Maliga,
yes.
Ms. Shah,
Yes.
Ms. Steady,
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes. We don't have any items for curriculum and instruction, so can I get a motion to approve finance items numbers 1 through 9? Louisa and Shweta, any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Ho,
Yes.
Ms. Shetty,
Yes.
Excuse me again. Ms. Cheniera?
Yes.
Ms. Krug?
Yes, except it's staying on C1, A, and B.
A on C1, A, B. Okay. Next, we have Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shah.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes. And now can I get a motion to approve personnel item number 1 plus the green addendum? Shweta and Louisa. Any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shah.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes. And before we move on, I just want to acknowledge a retirement that we just approved. Renee Hutton, CMS Secretary, is retiring after serving 23 years in the district. So we appreciate you and thank you so much for all your years of service to WWP, and congratulations on a very well-deserved retirement. Good luck to you. And now can I get a motion to approve the Board of Education minutes for November 19th? Pooja and Dana, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any abstentions?
Yes, I abstain.
Do we have any board liaison reports? No. Any new business? Okay, now that takes us to our second opportunity for public comments. The board invites comments from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer, and this public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. Do we have any public comments for this evening to close us off? Nope. Seeing none, I will close this second opportunity for public comment, and we can move to adjourn. So can I get a motion to adjourn? Loy and Ajanta. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, there we have it. Thank you, and again, Happy New Year's.